Welcome, Habari Asubihi. What is the news? Nkosi Sikilele Africa Malapakaniso Pandoayo Iswaye Metando Zoyetu Nkosi Sikilele. That is our greeting, as we say, in 2021, to use the language of who we are as a people. Welcome, Habari Asubihi. You say, what is the word? What is the news? Basically, our news today is to bring about political education to you. It is our duty. We're not only coming so you'll have 565,600 minutes. We cannot do that. Not 24/7, 365 days of the year. Sorry, we can't do that. But we can give you 52 weeks. 52 as in we will be here as a weekly Sunday show. We are happy that it is our duty, has a wonderful thing to show for today. As you can see, our logo is Support Alabama Amazon Union. What does that mean? Right now, there is some good news about the possibility of us all showing forth with something called the BHM1. And that's the workers at Amazon Warehouse in Bessemer, Alabama. They are waging a historic struggle to win the first to be a union across the country. What does that mean? Well, historically, because in 1 year, Bezos, who is the operating Amazon millionaire, he has made $74 billion in 2020. And that is from, I believe it's 189.3 billion. While there are 852,000 Black people that have died, some of those COVID victims have also been in these Amazon warehouses. And it is Black History Month. We're hoping that you can listen and join in to share and not only get right there on the chat if you're on YouTube or on Facebook. The Southern Workers Assembly that put us together yesterday had us nationally come together in solidarity with Bessemer. It was over 50 different cities that came together to help mobilize this national solidarity. Important for the workers' struggle, for Black people. It was important that Bessemer was first. What does that mean for us is that 6,000 Amazon warehouse workers in Bessemer. The campaign offered a rank and file, and although Alabama and Amazon nationally doesn't want this to happen, they have tried everything that they can in union busting. And what that looks like is that instead of allowing people to have their voice and, to make it easy a way for a union to come about, they had to, as workers, go to the wholesale retail and department store union. And with that union, they will be voting elections in the mail. This is because of some systemic racism, because of weak labor laws and environmental laws, voter suppression that we just encountered, but also a divided working class. And so we are coming from this place to really support solidarity. After yesterday, which was the National Solidarity Movement for Bessemer, there's 26,500 people in the population for Bessemer, and 75% of them are Black. And so when we came together in every city across America, we were waging war in this whole factor of systematic racism and what has happened to our country. So I want to be the first to say also that our city here, where I am, the Richmond Progressive Alliance and the Richmond People's Strike came together, and we also had a car caravan. But we're not the only ones. We had one in Oakland, there was New York, there were cities from across America. We have been blessed to have one of our organizers to come on our show today, and that's going to bring a dialogue much needed. But we want to give you a little history. And so I'm going to put here on my screen some information on just this whole notion of the worker, not just the worker, but this whole thing of the Reconstruction that you may or may not have an idea about. Let's see if we can get that completely on the screen here. The biggest thing in showing this quote that we want to show you, and I think I can get it a little, let's see if I can get that bigger for you. Yeah, it says here for those of you that know this wonderful professor and speaker, I'm going to show you the article, How Do We Change America? Kianga Yamata Taylor. And I've been practicing to say her name right. Kianga comes up from this quote that she wrote in The Racial Injustice in America. And she's quoted Martin Luther King. And it's very important that we understand why it's the South, why we push for the South when we think of Ella Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer, Martin Luther King. And so this quote has a lot to do why the last parts of his life, Martin Luther King's life, changed. He went from a notion of civil rights to human rights. And so in this quote, he says, as King said of the uprising in the late 1960s, I am not sad that Black Americans are rebelling. This was not only inevitable, but immensely desirable. Without this magnificent ferment among Negroes, the old evasions and procrastinations would have continued indefinitely. Black men have slammed the door shut on a past of deadening passivity. Except for the Reconstruction years, they have never in their long history on American soil struggled with such creativity and courage for their freedom. These are our bright years of emergence. Though they are painful ones, they cannot be replaced. They cannot be avoided. Excuse me. King continued, and this is this last part of what he said. The Black Revolution is much more than a struggle for the rights of Negroes. It is forcing America to face all that is interrelated flaws of racism, poverty, militarism, and materialism. It is exposing the evils that are rooted deeply in the whole structure of our society. It reveals systematic rather than superficial flaws and suggests that radical reconstruction of society itself is the real issue to be faced. So I'm going to take that quote right now and just let it be known that when we say Reconstruction, when we say this whole thing of union busting, not wanting these Amazonians to have a union, it goes back to the issue of slavery, the issue of why Reconstruction really was about the fact that slaves said, no more are we going to be workers. Slavery was the first union, right? What I meant that by that is that they were the first ones to say, we will not work for you anymore when the uprising and the revolts happened. And so during the Reconstruction years, as Martin Luther King suggests, the general strike is one thing we have in history with the Seattle, but we must remember the roots of what has happened. We must remember that these 6,000 members are fighting for something that is long time to come, that is bigger than the Republican and Democratic Party. And until we acknowledge all of this, will we still be fighting against these woes of racism, inequality, and the expanded on Black labor, as we see it in the unions that we're fighting in Bessemer, but we also see the Black labor in the prison industrial complex and other places. So we are here right now in our next space. It's important to me to introduce to you the significance of our guests that's here today. We have no other than Thomas D. Borga, and he works with the IATSE Local 26 Union in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I am happy to have one of our first guests to come on in this way, and we say thank you. Thomas, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Alita. And you can just call me Tom, Tom Burke. That's
Tom
how
Burke.
most people know me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome, Tom. Thank you for coming to It Is Our Duty. If you can just tell me a little bit about who you are in your union and what happened yesterday. We want to hear about this wonderful thing that you participated in that's went all across the country, even here in California, but right there in Grand Rapids. Please tell us more.
So currently I work as a stagehand, which makes me a member of the Stagehands Union, IATSE Local 26 in West Michigan. And I've been a longtime labor activist with SEIU, and I've always done anti-war and international solidarity work since I was a student, and we organized against South African apartheid. So I have some history with these two movements, especially anti-war and labor. In Michigan on Friday, we held a small action here in solidarity with the workers in Bessemer, Alabama. And we had 25 people come out, people from the Pipe Fitters Union, people from the United Food and Commercial Workers, who are actually the organizers of the drive to get Amazon workers to join the union. And we also had the support of the stagehands, and the local labor council endorsed it. So we reached a lot of people, and there were articles in the paper the next day all across Michigan, and as well in Fight Back News. And we did a car caravan like you, so I was happy to hear you did that, because we went to see 3 of the distribution centers, including a new one that just started hiring this week. They're going to hire 1,000 workers, and Amazon gets to decide where these warehouses are going. They make these small towns around the cities compete for the jobs and for the site to lower the prices and get tax cuts and whatnot, all for the benefit of someone who has $200 billion in his pocket. So it's hardly a democratic process. It's all decided by one guy who he says his goal is to not just have the market share. He's trying to take the whole market in his own hands and control it and shape it. And it's a monopoly, and that's what it is. And it's also a job killer. That's the other thing about it. He's not providing any jobs. He's actually getting rid of jobs in the rest of the economy. So
Yeah, tell us more about the economy on this note. You are, in working oops, in working in your union. What is the shift that you see, especially after 2020, that has propelled us to
so
this
like
right now?
in my own union, we haven't worked since March 12th a year ago. We've been on unemployment. And under Trump, there was no going back to work, not without safety and health standards to protect people. We're almost at 500,000 dead in this country. And, Trump's approach was to let whatever happen, happen. And that doesn't work for working people. It might work for rich people, and it might work for the politicians who tell us to go back to work, but don't show up at their own offices to work. That's how it is with the congressmen in Michigan here. We went and protested outside their offices, the Republican politicians demanding fair unemployment compensation. And they're not anywhere near their offices. They're at home, hiding out, staying safe, and telling us to go back to work at the same time. So it's the height of hypocrisy. But with the current situation is things are going to improve. There's a national plan. Now we have Democrats trying to force teachers in Chicago and other states back to work without health and safety standards in place. And so they're acting the same way the Republicans did. They just are being nicer about it, is how I would describe it. But neither party is going to bring the solutions that we need. We have to organize a labor movement. We have to organize all over the country. And when you're up against someone like the owner of Amazon, when Bezos has $2 billion and $200 billion in his pocket, second richest man in the world after Elon Musk,
Right.
it's a David versus Goliath battle. And I'm hoping they win in Alabama, down in the Black Belt South, the
Mhm.
homeland of African American people.
That's right.
But win or lose, the lesson we take home is that it's through building a labor movement that all of us can win together. And we can gain more solidarity, better wages, respect on the job. We got to get our benefits up. In Grand Rapids, they're offering $15.
Uh-oh, did we lose you? Can you hear me? Okay, we may have temporarily lost um, Mr. Burke. I still see him. So yes, we're gonna hide him for now and see if he'll come back on. It could be his. We never know. I think the biggest thing is, as he was saying, we're really looking at just how this has impacted the economy. How his union is not going back right now. They haven't been to work, right? But we're still doing these actions, and so with this, with this next slide that I'm going to show you, just to bring it full circle into some of the things he mentioned, and hopefully he'll come back. We want to show you all, if we can, just this slide here about Amazon and the what we did yesterday. And so in doing this yesterday, let's make that a little bigger. How's that? And you can see the support Alabama Amazon worker. This is right here in our area where you see the selfies that some of the people that did the car caravan, they did a car caravan also. That's why we use them today, because we're going to hope to get some others that will come in to tell you about the other things they did, and to have some of the national organizers come through if we can as well. So here you have, I think he's coming back, so we're going to put him back in a second. But as you can see, we had the selfies that they took at this Richmond mall, which used to be a black mall, and so because Amazon took their contractors, they had 10 contractors here, and those 10 contractors all have third party employees. So that means temps. No one really has, and so he's made those millions last year, but couldn't nationwide support this union, and that is what we rooted for. So you can see the picture here. It shows not only some of the union workers that came from across our town, the legal observers, and at the bottom picture is the Amazon workers. Those are two retired people, by the way. One is a postal service worker with the hat on, and the one next to him is a retired principal of a school, and they came out to do that, not only that caravan, but the postering and putting flyers for the worker to tell about this whole political education that we do on this show for It Is Our Duty. Political education on what is the news. Habari Subihi, Habari Montana, Habari Gani, as we say in Kwanzaa. What is the news? And the news is that we have to stand up for what is wrong. We've got to, as Tom was saying earlier, and we're going to put him back in here. We lost you for a second, but that's okay. And so I'm just going over just like some of the things that we've done yesterday. These are some of the people that was with us yesterday. Here's our legal observer that's all the way to the right. He was joining us in the front. We had another legal observer all the way to the rear. And as we surrounded this mall that used to be African American mall, as you can see, the young lady in the middle, she is showing a selfie of her car, and she got out to show the trucks that's taken over the parking lot. If you think of a mall, right? and the circumference of how big this mall is, because it also has Walmart, and then the bottom picture, which shows again the retired postal worker who came out with our caravan, as well as the retired principal. And they came out to say, we're going to do this and let the people be heard, be known about that we're in solidarity with these 50 million people. But I want you to continue on, because as you can see in the middle, it says Amazon stop union busing in Bessemer. And it talks about something you were talking about, this petition. Please tell us more. I don't know where you left off. I'm sorry we got disconnected, but I'm glad you're back.
Well, here I am.
Yeah.
So, so as you said earlier, there's 6,000 workers organizing the union, and this is their union. Make no mistake. What Amazon's going to try to say is the union is from outside, that, they send people there from out of state. And it's the same thing that every city says about the Black Lives Matter movement or the uprising last summer around justice for George Floyd. If you're in Grand Rapids, they try to tell you people came here from Detroit to make the protest happen. If you're from Chicago, they say they came from St. Louis to make it happen. And I don't think anyone in the movement believes it. We all know that we organize ourselves locally and we're in solidarity with each other. So yesterday, Saturday, you had this great outpouring across the country, nearly 50 cities.
Showing the city. There's Charlotte right there. Yeah.
It's so great, because it's the
Yes.
start of a movement that is
Yes.
going to organize, organize, organize. And the point I was trying to make about Bessemer is win or lose, because I'm afraid that if they do win, that's Grand Rapids right there.
Oh, is that you? Let's go back that slide. Right there. That's you all. We
That's
stand in
us
solidarity with Amazon Workers Union. There
out
they are. Yes,
out
in
in
the
the
snow.
freezing cold.
That's
But
right.
but we're strong people and determined people, so we came out.
Here's
So,
Oakland, where there's a city right next to where we are. So they
oh,
came over
cool,
to our event right after they had their event at 12 noon. So that was really nice. We did that
excellent.
together. Mm-hmm.
I like seeing all the red too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so if we get a win and the union is voted in, um, I'm worried that the next action will be that Bezos and Amazon will do what Walmart has always done, which is they just shut it down and they just take the business elsewhere. And so I think win or lose, the lesson is we have to start organizing and thinking on a national level and
Right.
even an international level. And we
Exactly.
have to all get involved. The whole AFL-CIO should join with the Teamsters Union and make a project of it together. Because Bezos' goal is to get rid of the US Post Office where there's unions. Bezos' goal is to
Right.
get rid of UPS where there's the Teamsters Union. And so if we don't start going on the offensive against these big, big billionaires, they're heading towards being trillionaires.
Right. Yeah.
And that's like, I don't know, they didn't teach us that math. There's so many zeros behind 200 billion that I don't remember how many zeros that is. It's got to be 12 or something.
Yeah, and so I agree that this was a great strategy point. This yesterday said to us, as you said, we have to start thinking, because they can shut down quickly this whole notion. Oh, okay, you're a problem. We got something else to do. We can let that just close down. And so what we're saying is, everyone nationally, we took 50 cities to say, no, we're watching you. You close down that one, we will continue to go for it, and to continue to strike, and to continue to have these all of the uprisings that were from last year here right now. On that vein, I wanted to do a real quick chant with you. I'm gonna see how much of the labor chants you know. How we're gonna make Richmond rise, educate, agitate, organize. How we're gonna make Grand Rapid rise.
Educate, agitate, organize.
Yes. Who's got the power?
We got the power.
Yes. What kind of power? You,
Union power.
yes, all right. I just was checking to see if you were ready for some of the
Put me
chat.
on the spot, huh?
I didn't prepare for that. But yeah, I think this is a totally a strategy. What is our strategy? And we're talking about from the Black radical tradition. This is Black History Month. We wanted to say that we have to join in. Our brothers and sisters in, although it's mostly, I think it was 74% or 70% in Bessemer, white, Black in this struggle for union, especially with the history, if I can say the history of the unions from after slavery that brought about the Black cooperative movement. If you haven't read Collective Courage, as we always talk about that book, it was that we found out to really join in the South, right? When in fact Black ownership came from what do you call it, mutual aid, which you all see now. That is how we started slave after slavery. We did mutual aid, and we started our own cooperatives. We started our own unions, and the unions of the white unions wanted to work with the Black unions because we had a lot of wealth. And so when we come together, this is important that we come solidarity in Black History Month. We come in solidarity for the unions, and we constantly keep in mind that this strategy is not going to happen if we don't unite in this fight. I think the leadership, it was great to see the Black Workers for Justice. Were
Right
you on
on.
calls with us? So I wanted to hear on your thoughts on just that whole piece as far as this is being Black History Month. How has it been for you in pushing this message? Why, we get that in the West Coast. Why the South again? So much. We don't want to go back to that history. What's happening with Grand Rapids to really talk about that viewpoint of us supporting First Bessemer?
So, as you and I know, but our audience needs to hear it again, Black people in the South are oppressed as a people, as a nation. And because of that oppression, there's a strong anti union element to it from Wall Street and from local.
Oh no. Okay, we may have lost him again, but that's okay because we do have someone else that's on board. And I'm going to say, Tom, please come back and join us. But right now, we do have another guest, and I'm glad to present. And I'm sorry, but Tom is gone, but we have Khalid Rahim. Welcome to our show, Khalid. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad I was able to get on. I had a little difficulty earlier, so I would have been
Okay,
on a lot sooner.
no
But thank
worries.
you for the invitation.
Yeah, no worries. So this is it is our duty, and we're talking about the Alabama Amazon, all the works that we did yesterday. Tom Burke was just on. I think he's in the waiting room now. But can you introduce yourself and tell us where you've come from, and tell us about your union?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I'm out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I represent an organization called the New African Workers Union. We're an independent Black union. We've been in formation for the last couple of years. And we heard about the effort in Alabama as far as the Amazon workers organizing and demanding that they be able to exercise their right to unionize. And we thought it was very important for our organization to come on board and to be an active supporter.
Yes, we are very. We actually also was here in California, just like you were, just very at the People Strike and the Richmond Progressive Alliance. So we did a car caravan, but I got to see a little bit of your broadcast yesterday. Tell us what it was you were saying and doing to be one of the 50 that came out to speak up.
Right, absolutely. So what we wanted to do, we couldn't pull together a physical formation so we could be present at one of the Amazon sites throughout our region. But one of the things we decided to do was to basically demonstrate our support through an online action. So we encourage people who lived in the state of Alabama or people who had family, friends, connections, colleagues, anyone from the state of Alabama, especially those people who were familiar with the Amazon plant or warehouse, to call in to express their support and to express their solidarity with the workers from Amazon in their quest to establish a union. And so we encourage people to visit the organizing site with all the information. We encourage people to do their own research to find out more about the initiative and to, as soon as they could, place any necessary phone calls, emails, and anything else to encourage people to support the action and to encourage Amazon to recognize the action and stop being an obstructionist and getting in the way of people being able to organize an independent, or rather to organize a union.
Yes, that's perfect. Yeah, some of the things you touched upon, and did I have the right there? I put Black Union. I don't think that was the title of your
No,
union.
no, it's called the New African Workers Union. New
Okay,
African, that's African spelled with a K.
okay,
And
let me put that in there right now, just a second. New African Workers with the K.
right,
And so
New
I've
African
been a
Workers
part,
Union.
okay, New African Workers Union. Okay, wonderful. I was a part of the Republic, well, working with the Malcolm X grassroots movement that does the
Yes,
Republic of New Africa. I helped with
right,
the one in Birmingham, Alabama, which is why Bessemer is so important to me because
right,
working with
right.
Malcolm X grassroots movement, you all's history, the history of the Black Union in itself. I was telling Tom earlier when we talk about the cooperative movement and mutual aid after slavery. Tell us more about how you all started as the New African Worker Black Union.
Well, one of the things that we did several years ago with our particular group based in Pittsburgh, we actually moved to start an independent political party. So we have a political party that corresponds with our union work and our organizing effort. We saw very closely the traditional relationship between, for example, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and organized labor, especially the Democratic Party and organized labor. And so we thought it was very important, once again, not to slam those brothers and sisters who still have ties to the Democratic Party, but we
Sure.
thought it was very important to start our own political party, and to at some point and at some point we realized that we had to start our own union as well. That we needed to have an independent vehicle that could organize and advocate on behalf of the Black working class when it came to collective bargaining and when it came to
Yes,
improving
collective
working
bargaining.
conditions.
Yes, that's perfect. Right intro into for those of you that know, we've been on for 3 weeks. We are cooperative, and we're for the same reasons and doing this work and working with unions. We are people who have been organizing, and so it's great to hear about the political aspect that you took for a party because it was something that Tom was saying in our earlier conversation on this show. Tom was saying that we have to be strategic. If in fact we don't come together as unions, right? Because they have so much money, they could shut down Bessemer and don't care and start over like Walmart has started in the past when we strike. And so the more we have strategy on the political and coming together, if it's a union like Brother Khalid is doing and Tom Burke, or like we are as cooperatives, we must
Right.
unite. So I'm going to bring us all three of us into this, and I want to talk about the next thing. Hey, everyone, about collective bargaining. I think it's important with Bessemer. There is a explanation of what that. So, welcome back, Tom. I'm sorry
Thank
we
you.
got kicked off again, but we were. It was perfect timing because Khalid came in when you went out, and we have all three. Who would like to start first about just what is your synopsis on collective bargaining in this process, especially as it pertains to Bessemer?
Well, I'd like to say greetings to Khalid. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to see you as well.
With the union, the basics are always the same. That the collective bargaining, once you vote the union in, it gives you the space and the time to raise your wages, improve your benefits, and really important in the South and for Black workers and for women is respect on the job, because these big corporations often don't respect people. I'm hearing stories that in these giant warehouses, they give a half hour for lunch, but it
They do.
takes a worker 10 minutes to get to the cafeteria and
Mm,
10 minutes to get back. So they
mm,
can barely use the bathroom and they have to go back to work. And
Yeah.
we know that in the South, where unions have been repressed for many years, and Black workers in particular have suffered because of the lack of unionization, it's also the place where the working conditions for white workers and Mexicano and other immigrant workers are also, the conditions are also the worst part of the country for them. And so when we can unite and fight, everyone wins. And
That's
even
right.
here in Michigan, we are now a right to work state, the home of the auto workers. We are a right to work state. We are no different than Alabama today.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
I
And and
can
we
you
got to
answer that
change
question
this.
too with the collective bargaining? I want to hear also from you on this. Yes, we do
well
have to check.
also yes, we think that collective bargaining is very, very important, and we just want to echo the same narrative that Tom just laid out. I think it's appalling, for example, and it's quite a shock for real to find
Mhm.
out that Michigan is now a right to work state, right? With all
Hmm.
the union work and organizing that's been put in
Right.
historically throughout the state of Michigan, especially when we talk about the black working class around the auto industry.
Yep.
Yes.
The League of
Yes.
Revolutionary Black Workers and other
Yep.
formations,
Mhm.
Dodge, and so forth and so on. So I think it is quite a shock to find out that in 2020 or 2021, Michigan, like many of the states throughout the South, especially, is now a so-called right to work state. Which I had to explain that to some associates of mine, not necessarily those involved in labor organizing, but just organizers in general, because when they heard the term right to work, they thought that was a good thing. And I basically went on to explain to them that when you translate it, it means the right to work without any collective bargaining, the right to work without a contract, the right to work under the most oppressive and abusive conditions. Yeah, you have a right to work. You just don't have the right to any type of representation in your best interest as a worker. So you could work. It's like slaves had a right to work. They were
Right.
compelled, right? But so we had to give some explanation to what that terminology "right to work" actually means in real practice. One of the
Right.
things that I believe separates our union work and our union um, efforts and philosophy is that the black worker, we see the black worker as an extension of the black family as well as the black community. So we
Mm.
know that whatever is ailing the black worker when he or she goes to work, whatever is bothering them that's in their community, their neighborhood, is going to have an impact on the quality of their work as well. And so what we do, we believe that yes, we have to engage in collective bargaining, but we also have to engage in community organizing and advocacy on behalf of
Right.
black workers around the issues that matter to them once they leave their place of work. Issues like police brutality, issues like
Yeah.
mass incarceration, issues like freedom for political prisoners, issues
Right.
like dismantling white supremacy. So we take on the hard issues that many unions don't take on. And now, we're not angry at them because they don't take on those issues, but we thought it was very important for us as a union to take on the issues that really resonate with a lot of black people. The fact
Mhm.
that when black people get up in the morning to go to work, they come to work maybe with a smile on their face,
Right.
but what they're dealing with is the possibility that maybe one of their children could be the victim of a drive-by shooting. Maybe somebody in their neighborhood has been evicted from their home. Maybe someone in their family is now facing some type of issue as far as health care. So those are the type of issues that we also want to address as we talk about improving the quality and the condition of black workers. So that kind of sums it up for us. That's our own little special part in this whole labor organizing piece is to connect what's happening with black workers to what's happening with their families and with their respective neighborhoods and communities. We don't separate them at all, right? We think that when we talk about collective bargaining issues, we need to think about how those issues are going to impact the lives, the livelihood, as well as the conditions of the people who we represent.
So one of the other things that we were talking about early is just how immensely wealthy Bezos is. That he's got nearly $200 billion in his pocket. And I was saying in a speech on Friday that um, the local workers are starting at $15 an hour, And when you take out taxes and other fees and expenses, they're really making just above poverty wage. And in the time that Bezos brushes his teeth at night, he's already made your yearly salary, and more. But
Right,
that's how
right.
rich he is. He makes so much money hand over fist. So we think the workers should have that voice on the job. And as you say, that voice on the job means more power in the community. And we think if we can unite workers of all nationalities, that they begin to see what they have in common, and don't let the Tea Party movement or the Trumper movement divide them. It seems like every time there's an economic crisis, like the 1920s and 30s, suddenly the Klan type groups make a comeback, and that's what happened in Michigan. We had the Republicans take over the legislature, and then all of a sudden these militia groups are there, storming it and threatening Democrats, And I know Democrats aren't the solution, but these people are so extreme. They're going after just regular Democratic politicians who don't have that much, interest for what working people are facing. So the Republicans are really the ones driving the agenda here, but now they've created this monster that's even threatening their own party. And I see it as part of the economic crisis, rising with time. And then the rich people say, well, we're going to come in and, defend what we have with this other kind of paramilitary force, similar to the Klan in the past,
Yeah, that's very true. I agree. We contend that the entire system itself is thoroughly corrupt. We recognize that at this point in history, the more visible corruption is being demonstrated through the Trump faction of the Republican Party. But we also recognize that there's corruption throughout the ranks of the Democratic Party as well. We also have some issues with the bureaucracy within the organized labor movement. How oftentimes they side with upper level and even middle level management against workers, right? We
That's
also
right.
recognize that within the union, we have issues of racism and white supremacy within the unions themselves, which is another thing that prompted us to start an independent Black union, the New African Workers Union, not to get away from the need for working class unity, but to highlight that within the Black working class, we must protect the interests of Black people, even against some of our union brothers and sisters who haven't quite outgrown this notion of white supremacy or racial superiority. And so we can't wait on them to do the right thing. We can't wait on them to change as we continue to suffer. So we had to organize our own thing, which doesn't preclude us from working with other segments of the working class in general. But we just want to make sure that the interests of the Black working class, especially low income and poor and working class folks, are going to be adequately represented, and our interests are going to be promoted not just within the workplace, but outside of the workplace, right?
That's right.
We need to demand that just as labor bureaucrats have called upon Black workers to come to their different events, to attend their rallies and to attend their gatherings to show support, we need to demand that workers from other so-called races come to the Black community to show support for the things that matter to us. And so it has to be a relationship based on reciprocity and based on mutual respect. It can't be one-sided, which is another reason that we started the union that we currently have. But yes, we believe in working class unity, but that working class unity has to be based on reciprocity, and it has to be based on mutual respect, and it has to be based on principles.